والكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه في ليلة مباركة إنا كنا منذرين فيها يفرق كل أمر حكيم أمرا من عندنا إنا كنا مرسلين رحمة من ربك إنه هو السميع العليم رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين لا إله إلا هو يحيي ويميت ربكم ورب آبائكم الأولين بل هم في شك يلعبون فارتقب يوم تأتي السماء بدخان مبين يغشى الناس هذا عذاب أليم ربنا اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون أنى لهم الذكرى وقد جاءهم رسول مبين ثم تولوا عنه وقالوا معلم مجنون إنا كاشف العذاب قليلا إنكم عائدون يوم نبطش البطشة الكبرى إنا منتقمون ولقد فتنا قبلهم قوم فرعون وجاءهم رسول كريم أن أدوا إلي عباد الله إني لكم رسول أمين وأن لا تعلوا على الله إني آتيكم بسلطان مبين وإني عذت بربي وربكم أن ترجمون وإن لم تؤمنوا لي فاعتزلون فدعا ربه أن هؤلاء قوم مجرمون فأسر بعبادي ليلا إنكم متبعون واترك البحر رهوا إنهم جند مغرقون كم تركوا من جنات وعيون وزروع ومقام كريم ونعمة كانوا فيها فاكهين كذلك وأورثناها قوما آخرين فما بكت عليهم السماء والأرض وما كانوا منظرين ولقد نجينا بني إسرائيل من العذاب المهين من فرعون إنه كان عاليا من المسرفين ولقد اخترناهم على علم على العالمين وآتيناهم من الآيات ما فيه بلاء مبين إن هؤلاء ليقولون إن هي إلا موتتنا الأولى وما نحن بمنشرين فأتوا بآبائنا إن كنتم صادقين أهم خير أم قوم تبع والذين من قبلهم أهلكناهم إنهم كانوا مجرمين وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين وما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين ما خلقناهما إلا بالحق ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات الله.
Thank you for that beautiful recitation. Now we have a short dua by Brother Muhammad Haider, if he's here. Right here. Let us welcome him in the loud salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى أبائه في هذه الساعات وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه وطاقا طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
Thank you for the recitation. Now we have a salam by Brother Sayyid Hamza. Let us welcome him to Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. आजा असग़र की जगह मेरी सकीना सो जा आजा असग़र की जगह मेरी सकीना सो जा जागती माँ ने कहा मेरी सकीना सो जा है आजा असग़र की जगह मेरी सकीना सो जा जो तुझे खौफ है शायद मैं उसे कम कर दूं आज आँखों पे तेरे ना दे अली दम कर दूं दूर क्यों बैठी है मेरी सकीना सो जा है आजा असग़र की जगह मेरी सकीना सो जा बाप के सीने पे आदत है تجھے سونے کی میری گودی تیرے قابل تو نہیں ہے، پھر بھی ہے میرے دل کی صدا، میری سکینہ سو جا ہے، آجا اصغر کی جگہ میری سکینہ سو جا۔ 4 برسوں میں نہ زحمت دی کبھی تو نے مجھے، اپنی خدمت کا مجھے آج تو موقع دے دے، ہوگا احسان تیرا میری سکینہ سو جا ہے، آجا اصغر کی جگہ میری سکینہ سو جا۔ اور صابروں کا یہ قرینہ تو نہیں ہے بی بی، یہ ہے پردیس مدینہ تو نہیں ہے بی بی، کر کے بس شکر خدا میری سکینہ سو جا ہے، آجا اصغر کی جگہ میری سکینہ سو جا۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
Thank you for that beautiful recitation. And inshallah these lectures will continue until Wednesday, September 6th, which will be the day of Arba'in. Inshallah we will have a night program. And before I call up the Sayyid, I would like to ask for your support in conducting all these programs that we have in the English. And without your support, none of this is possible. So whatever you can, it would be beneficial for you and for us as well. Now I would like to call upon Hujjatul Islam al-Muslimin, Sayyid Abbas Razaviyan, to address us and enlighten us with his knowledge. Let us welcome him with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد آل محمد وعجل فرجه، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. When we look at the videos about what is happening right now in Karbala, all of us, our hearts are there, and we wish that it was us, that we were on this walk going towards the holy shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And we make dua, we say that may Allah make us of the zawar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and give us some of the reward of those that are walking. But we know that while we are here, we can do ziyarat from afar. Many people, they were not allowed to take off time from their jobs, or they're not maybe financially capable of making this ziyarah. If you can turn down the echo, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, the echo. So if we wish to be part of the ziyarat, we have in the tradition that whatever your heart, your intention is, you will receive that. So the fact that you were not able to go to the ziyarat, hopefully they'll still write us as the zawar of Imam Hussein because your heart was there. We're talking about Ziyaratul Arba'in. And I talked about last night about the fact that there are many lessons in the ziyarat of Arba'in. The ziyarat that comes from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and it has for us different reasons why Imam Hussein alayhi salam revolted. We said that in some of the nights, or the night before, we said that Imam Hussein alayhi salam revolted because he wanted to save people from ignorance. We said that Imam Hussein alayhi salam revolted. Why? So he can save people from dhalalat, from confusion. But there's also another meaning when you look at the ziyarat text. And maybe you've heard all the time that Imam Hussein came to command the good, to enjoin the good, to forbid the evil. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam fought in the battle of Karbala. Why? Because he was going to reform society, as we talked about last night. But there's also another reason we can say, and again, we can't say everything for sure. There's also another reason in the Ziyarah text that alludes to the fact that why did Imam Hussein alayhi salam go to Karbala? Why did Imam Hussein alayhi salam take his wife, his women and children? Usually in a battlefield, it is not a place where you take your family members. It is you go, the men go and they fight. But Karbala was an exception. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam, even though he was traveling, he was traveling to Kufa, but he knew that this battle would happen. So the question is, why didn't he leave them in, for example, the city of Medina? Why didn't he just go himself? And people were confused about this. And one of the letters that he gives to Ibn Abbas, I believe, he mentions that Allah wants to see them be captives. Allah wants to see them be captives. So because Ibn Abbas was a mufassir of Quran, he was confused as well. So we see that now I want you to take, that normal and conventional reasoning that we have, that we say that Imam Hussein alayhi salam revolted to reform society. We said that things had become so bad that the only way to wake up society was that his blood, holy blood, would be spilt in Karbala. But there's also another aspect of Karbala. And you see today, what happened, it's very interesting. Every time you go to different cities and you speak, or the fact that you're in, somewhere that is very far from Imam Hussein, a time period that is 1400 years later from the event, and you're still remembering him, you're still crying for him, as if this happened yesterday, for example, something that is very fresh and is it alive. This alludes to the fact that Allah wanted to give Imam Hussein alayhi salam rank. Allah wanted to give Imam Hussein honor. And when Imam Hussein sacrifices everything for Allah, Allah gives everything to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because we have in the traditions that أفضل الأعمال أحمزها, the best of actions are those actions that are the hardest. Sometimes you might be fasting and it's winter time and it's the day off and you sleep in and you wake up, you pull all-nighter, you wake up and alhamdulillah it's Maghrib time, beautiful. You fasted perfectly, no problem whatsoever, and it was an easy fast. Okay, that's good. Is it accepted or not? Is that fast accepted? Yes. Great, congratulations to you, I can say myself. But does that compare to reward that if you're fasting while you have all these other obligations that day? Fasting and it's during the summer, and it's very hot. And, there's different places for you to go. You can't be at home all the time. And you have a tremendous headache, for example. You just come down and it's iftar time. I don't know if this has ever happened, that you're so damaged from the fasting that it comes iftar time, you can't even eat anything anymore. So which one do you think has more value? That is easy or that which is hard? Obviously, أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. Those actions that are hard. I was speaking to one of the brothers, and I was in one of the cities, and there was a brother that became Muslim, and he was doing his salat, and it was almost qada time. Qada is that time that's too late to do that prayer. It's like right at the borderline. He was pushing it. And I thought to myself, I said that, why, he's praying so late? What's happening? And then another thought came to my mind that, what? This brother, to reach this prayer, he gave up a tremendous amount of things with his family, with himself, to change as somebody that has no, association with Islam. His life was completely different than an Islamic life. He didn't know anything. And to completely reform and to become Muslim, I said that his prayer, his 2 units prayer, is probably better than all my prayers that I do on time, for example, because I came from a Muslim family, for example. That those 2 units that he's doing, or 4 units that he's doing, he struggled with. So again, do you think his prayer is equal, that he struggled that hard to learn Arabic and he couldn't even learn it? It was hard for him, for example. Does that equal to someone whose, for example, mother tongue is Arabic? His dad, for example, my dad's not a sheikh, but for example, his dad was a sheikh, an alim. His grandfather was an alim, for example. Did they both sacrifice the same amount? No. So Allah looks at how much we give for Him. Allah looks at how much are you ready to sacrifice for Him. And that is why some of the traditions mention that a young person that has capability to sin and is young, their heart, is with sin. They have capability, they have the looks, for example, they have the financial resources to sin. But yet they choose to be chaste. They choose to have chastity. They choose modesty. They have one of the highest ranks of people because they had capability to sin. And some ask, well, why would they equal, for example, maybe the reward of a shaheed, for example? And you say, well, that person, every day they're becoming shaheed. Every day there's a jihad in them. And they're fighting. A shaheed goes to the battlefield, it's difficult, goes once. But that person that can sin, has capability, there's sin all around him. All his friends are going somewhere and he chooses not to. It's Friday night and everyone is going to someone's house to hang out. And he says, no, I don't want to go there. I want to go to Al-Khoei, for example, youth group, for example. You have a youth group here on Friday nights or no? Inshallah, start one. Friday nights is a good night to start one. And have some, fun events. But say he chooses to go to the youth group, chooses to go to the masjid, goes to the Majlis. That person will be rewarded because inside him every day he is fighting at school, at work, with his lower desires. So dear brother, dear sister, the more you give for God, there's no way it's going to be overlooked. And the harder, maybe somebody, in terms of his recitation, his prayer, his fasting, maybe they're at this level. But they came all the way from the ground to this level. You didn't see that. You just see this level. You didn't see what they came from. But another person, he's here, but he's been there his entire life. He was born in that level, for example. It's expected for him to be that level. You're asking, why didn't you go to this level? You started here. But this person, he started all the way there. The only being that knows someone's struggles is God. And that's why we're not supposed to judge one another. We're supposed to command the good, enjoin the good and forbid, but you can't say this brother is going to go to hell, that sister is going to go to hell, this brother is going to go to heaven. We never know because we don't know what they have gone through. But when you look at Karbala in one of the lessons here, and you can see that mystical part of Karbala is what happens when a person like Imam Hussein sacrifices everything in one day. You know, each book of the musibah, each part of the musibah and calamity of Imam Hussein alayhi salam can be a book. That it would be enough for one person to lose it. One part. Just one part. One part, for example, Qasim, his nephew, is just coming to the battlefield. That's enough for someone to lose it. And to say, that's it, I don't want it anymore. I want to go back. I don't want this. I'm causing my nephew to become killed, to become martyred. But you see that great individuals, they take something that's tremendously hard and they make it, in a way, easy for themselves. But weak individuals, they take something that is very easy and they make a huge deal out of it. Because it's that dharfiyat, that capacity. Did you ever travel with someone that has weak dharfiyat, that has low capacity? The air conditioning doesn't work, they get upset. It's too hot now, they get upset. The plane leaves 5 minutes late, they're upset. You know, baggage comes a little bit late. They just drive themselves nuts. It's not a big deal. You know, if you're traveling, for example, you know it's going to be hard. But that person that has great dharfiyat and capacity, they can lose their luggage. You know, they can have, for example, food won't be there, anything, and they're quiet because they're great personality. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he had the most difficult test, you can say, one of the most difficult tests that one human being had. And each musibat that he saw, and he was the last one to be shaheed. Everyone was shaheed in front of him. His loyal companions that he turned off the light, and he told them, you can go, they're coming for me. You can go, it's okay. They're coming for me, but they stayed. And some of them were old, some of them were loyal, like Habib, for example, like Musab ibn Awsaja. And then when it comes to his families, and it comes to, for example, his own child, Ali Akbar, and it comes to the jihad and nafs. You know, they asked this sheikh once, the Zakir, they said, do the musibat of Imam Hussein. Because when you say musibat, the calamity, tell me how Imam Hussein was killed. And he says, okay, I'll tell you how Imam Hussein killed. And he read how Ali Akbar was killed. And then he said, no, look, I'm having this Majlis. Tell the people tonight, so they cried, tell them how Imam Hussein was killed. Again, he read how Ali Akbar was killed. Then the third time he says, no, you don't understand. I said Imam Hussein. You're reading for Ali Akbar. He says, no, actually, you don't understand. Imam Hussein was killed when Ali Akbar was killed. I'm telling you how Imam Hussein was killed. Because when you have Ashbahun Nas Khalaqan wa Khulqan wa Mantiqan, you have the most similar person to Rasulullah the Prophet. You have utter completion in front of you at the age of 18 or 20. Such beauty you see that has reached fi'liyat, reached completion. And you see him in one instance in pieces and parts. You know. So therefore you see that this jihad that Imam Hussein had was not a normal jihad. Because each being that was being killed was an Imam Zadeh who had positioned themselves, and he knew the position of each person. So therefore that trial and test for Imam Hussein, each time it was happening and occurring, in the Maqtal it says Imam Hussein, his face was becoming brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter on the day of Ashura. So much so that Allah gives him Al-Maqam Al-Mahmud, the praiseworthy station. And we read this in the day of Ashura, in Ziyarat al-Ashura, we read that we ask Allah to also give us that Maqam al-Mahmud, that praiseworthy station. وَأَسْأَلَهُ أَنْ يُبَلِّغَنِي الْمَقَامَ الْمَحْمُودَ لَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهِ I ask God to make me attain the praiseworthy station that you enjoy, Allah. That Imam Hussein, you got al-Maqam al-Mahmud, you got the praiseworthy station. There's a lot of debate about what is the station. It's a special station. Rasulullah had it. In Quran, Rasulullah had it, and some say it's shafa, it's intercession. Al-Maqam al-Mahmud means you're so high in position, not only you're going to heaven, crowds and crowds of people you can take into heaven with you. You know, they say the martyr, just a normal martyr, it can take multiple people into heaven. But then when someone reaches Al-Maqam Al-Mahmud, can take waves and waves of people to heaven. So we're trying to talk about maybe the mystical aspect of Ashura, and to understand that besides that Imam Hussein needed to reform society, that sacrifice was in a difficult way, it gave Imam Hussein rank, gave him azumat, gave him, in a way, made him so alive that today you see all through major cities in the United States, you see julus and marches for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I heard, in Times Square, I heard that you had an advertisement for who was Hussein. In Times Square for 10, days and nights for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who was Hussein. So what did Imam Hussein do that after so many years, when one person passes away, after 40 days they start to forget about him? But his name would be in Times Square, and who is Hussein, and people will remember him. So why? It's that position. Through sacrifice, through strife, Allah gives you position. Now, that position that you're looking for doesn't have to necessarily come only from the battlefield. When you're looking for position, as young people, as youth, the fact that you're giving up things that are haram, as we said, that for you is your jihad. There are many things, sometimes again we talked about music, we talked about usury, we talked about intoxications, we talked about haram food, for example, haram things to see, haram things to hear. One of the sweetest of haram, they say, is backbiting. It's one of the most tastiest and sweetest is telling somebody's rumors. Did you know this brother, this Sayyid, this Maulana who came from Los Angeles, did you know he does this? I saw with my eyes. Oh, wow, that's great. Really, what else did he do? So let me tell you, I'll tell you the next one tomorrow, one a day. It's one of the sweetest because you love exposing these things and these rumors or stories, but yet it is the most dangerous. It's one of the most dangerous. So fighting yourself and say, look, I'm going to think before I talk. I'm going to save this person's reputation. Maybe he did that, okay. But I'm going to save his reputation. I'm not going to talk bad behind him. I'm going to fight against my nafs. Brother and sister, whoever has reached any position, and I don't claim that I am a master at fighting the lower desires, but whoever has any position you see has sacrificed, has given things up, has been sincere. This is a sign of sincerity. Has done things that nobody else wanted to do. It's easy to do all those things that everyone else wants to do, but if you look at this masjid, you look at that person that's going to volunteer and be here all the time, even though they have school, even though they have work, or that person that funds, say, the centers, even though they need that money, even though, for example, they're not very, very well off. Those things are what count the most. So therefore, you see that one of the lessons we learn from Imam Hussein alayhi salam is sacrifice, to give in the way of Allah. And it's going to be heard. Many people, urafa, mystics say, I didn't really do anything to reach God. I just took one step. I just gave something up that I really loved. I gave that up. And the rest Allah took me. The rest He took me. And the way He guided me. So if you're here today, I really believe that the Majlis of Imam Hussein is an invitation. Think about what you did before. Not that it's my speech, of course. That is, maybe you did something bad to come to my speech. But for the Majlis of Imam Hussein, the fact that you're here, remember, they asked one of the scholars and they said the ziyarat of Imam Hussein, is it something that is taqdeer for them? Is it something that is recorded? It was their destiny? Or is it something that they chose by themselves? They're wondering, they're asked, is ziyarat, is visiting Karbala, is it something that I choose to go and I go? Or is it something that was destined for me, was written for me to go? Which one do you think it is? He said, it's none of these two. He said, none. He says, ziyarat of Imam Hussein is da'wat, meaning it's an invitation. You were invited to go. He wanted you to go. He wanted you to come to his majlis. When I was thinking of these caravans that are going, I said, imagine us today. Has anyone seen a mokib, for example? Mokibs are these stations that because the 90-kilometer walk is so long, and this year it's happening in the summertime, so usually most people are walking at nighttime. But there are stations, walking from station to station, and they go and they rest. Some places they rest, most places they eat, and they eat more and more. There's a lot of eating. So these stations are called mokibs. But I want you to imagine every night that we're coming here, it's a mokib. And the destination that we're going, yes, we're in New York, but our destination is Imam Hussein's Karbala. Because each night we're talking about him. What is the closest place to Karbala? The Majlis of Imam Hussein. That is the closest place. The place where Imam Hussein's name is mentioned, remembered. The place where Imam Hussein goes to people's hearts. That is, so this, I think, if you imagine it this way, that we are slowly going, is, says, ilallah, we're going towards God. We're going towards spirituality. We're going towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So let's talk a bit about the sacrifice that we said, one of the spiritual or mystical reasons why Imam Hussein alayhi salam went to Karbala, or Allah wanted him to go to Karbala, was to give him spiritual status. You see this in the Ziyarah text, and this is the proof that some of the scholars use to prove this. As-salamu ala waliyillah wa habibih. Peace be upon to you, Imam Hussein, who is the vicegerent of God. He is the wali. Wali is someone that Allah puts as a vicegerent, someone who puts in charge of people. Wa habibih, and his beloved, that he loves. So you're seeing that love relationship. God loves people, his servants sacrificing for him, worshipping him, giving up things. And you always see that sometimes when some trips or ziyarah trips are hard, but there's a lot of spirituality. And some ziyarah trips, there's too much comfort, you kind of lose the spiritual aspect of it, for example, when it's really hard. As-salamu ala khalilillahi wa najibih. Peace be upon to you, friend of God and distinguished. So Imam Hussein in this ziyarat is the friend of Allah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the Khalil of God. So this relationship comes by sacrifice. To be Khalil, to be a friend, to be Habib, it takes a journey for you. It takes lots of sacrifice to reach that. In one of the du'as it mentions, إلهي أنت الذي أشرقت الأنوار في قلوب الأوليائك حتى عرفوك ووحدوك وأنت الذي أزلت الأغيار عن قلوب أحبائك حتى لم يحبوا سواك. God, you are the one who removed others from the hearts of your friends. You are the one that removed others from the hearts of your friends. When God loves someone, He tests them, and everything else that they love, He takes away from them. He takes away from them. So only, it says, until they love no one but you. Nothing else is in the heart. It gives you that complete sincerity. One of our scholars by the name of Ayatollah Abdul Karim Ha'iri, big marja, he started the seminary in Qom. When people would come to him for advice, he would ask, what is your profession? What do you do? So a person came and says, I'm a carpenter. What does a carpenter do? Does he work with carpet? No, I want to say if you're listening, he works with wood, right? Yeah. So he's a carpenter. And he said, okay, my advice to you is this. When I say these things, I advise myself because I'm the worst. I'm the worst stationed than everyone here. Status. He said to make a door. Carpenters make doors, frames, windows. Make a door in front of your heart and don't allow anyone else in it but Allah. Our problem is that we think that God has given us two hearts. And we have lots of attachments. We have lots of things we love. And it's because of those attachments, those things that we are cling on to, we really can't take the next step in spirituality. Because guidance works this way. There's one level you reach, and then you reach another level, and then God gives you more tests, more tribulations, more different things, maybe more bounties, and wants to see, what do you do now? Are you going to be stuck in that level, or are you going to go to the next level? So you see, Guidance in the spiritual journey is a beautiful journey that in these 70, 80, 100 years, inshallah, 200 years that you live, you keep going, you're supposed to keep going up in rank. Each time you give up more, you learn more, you sacrifice more, you spend the bounties that God has given you correctly, you reach a higher place. But if you're always stuck in one level, it means that you are not at the right level of guidance. You didn't accept the higher level of guidance. This was your level of guidance. So the maximum level is when there's nothing else in the heart. No attachment. Does this mean that we shouldn't own anything? Does this mean that I should walk here, for example, and I should sell my car immediately after this majlis and give it to my, friend, or give it to Maulana? Maybe give it to Maulana. I'm just kidding. But no, it doesn't mean that. It means that you shouldn't be attached to it. That if they give you something, for example, this iPad, I like it a lot. Don't ask for it after the khutbah. I need it really. But I like, for example, I lose it or something happens to it. I don't freak out. Oh, my iPad. No, I loved it so much. I used to sleep next to it, for example. I loved it. What happened? No. I use this as a tool to give member. Most of my knowledge is here. If I lose this, I can't give speeches. I need it. In this way, I'm attached because my knowledge is in it. But it means that you don't have any type of hope, love for it. Let me give you an example. A Sufi once came to one of our great scholars, Mullah Naraqi. Mullah Naraqi wrote books of ethics, but he was very well off, very well off. He had people that would work for him, had a vast home. And this dervish, and Sufism, usually it's about not owning anything, and not even having a home, just walking around and having a kashkul, a little bag that they have. Walking around, getting money from people, doing dhikr. And he looks at this grand scholar from the Shia with all the different servants or people that he has, home he has. And he's like, you are a teacher of akhlaq, you are a teacher of ethics. You're living in luxury, for example. You're living in, not luxury, but plentiness. You have a lot. So then, to prove him wrong, he says, well, let's go on a trip. Let's go to Ziyarat right now. Let's go to Karbala right now. It's okay. Let's go. And they start. He says, on the way that Sufi notices that, oh, shoot, my kashkul that I had, I left it. I left it at your house, for example. I left my little bag that I had. And it's a symbol of Sufism. Let's go back. I can't go without it. And Mullah Naraqi mentions, he says that I left my entire house. I left my entire service. Everything that I had, food, everything. And I came up, right now I came. But you only had one thing. And you were attached to that one thing. So who is more of a dunya person? Who is more of a materialist? That person that has a lot, but isn't attached at 1 minute, let's go. I'm not attached to it. I don't have to have this comfort. Or that person that only has one thing and they're attached to that one thing. So therefore you see the traditions mention that a zuhd from Imam Ali alayhi salam, the tradition has that zuhd doesn't mean that you don't own anything. Asceticism, zuhd, I'll try to, if there's words that I don't translate. Asceticism or disdainment from the world doesn't mean that you don't own anything. Zuhd, balal zuhd, or disdaining from the world means that nothing owns you. That nothing owns you. So when you look at this aspect and you see that the attachments that we have, the love that we have for other things, it should be in a way that it all revolves around God. I have parents, should I love them or not? Is that against God? I have children, should I love them or not? I have a spouse, should I love that spouse, yes or no? To answer it this way, you should love them, of course, but with a condition that you love them for the sake of God. You love everything, your parents, your family, your children, because in a way, as if you see the solar system, every planet, for example, moon or different subjects that are in the solar system, They all revolve around the sun. They all revolve, they move, but they revolve around the sun. When you have different types of love, children, parents, all this, you do love them, but it's only because it revolves around the sun, only because Allah gave it to you, only because Allah wants you to love Him. It's mixed. It's the source, the actual source of it is like the sun. The source of it is because God wants you to love them. God gave them to you. God told me, this child that I have, take care of it, for example, love it. But if I know that if that love is wrong, is if that parent tells you, do haram, and if Allah tells you, do halal, which one will you choose? Then you know where your love is really. If I love my parents for God, then when they would say, okay, commit polytheism, I'll say, no, I cannot listen to you anymore. So it's okay to have that love, but that love should revolve around the love of God, should be part of that tawheed. Let's recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the lessons we learned today, we're at the end. Those that they love to hear this word, we're ending the speech, it's good. 2 points I want to make. One is that through sacrifice, position is attained. If you have a rough life, if you have a rough day, rough time, and you have patience, and you ask help from God, know that Allah is giving you position. He's giving you kamal. And that is what a Rabb does. A Rabb, in Arabic, a Rabb means a Lord. A Lord. A Rabb does in Arabic tarbiyah. A Rabb develops you. Tarbiyah means to develop someone. For example, someone is a Rabb and takes, for example, has a farm and takes this farm, plants it, takes care of it, and makes it reach its maximized position that it can. So it can have, for example, fruit, for example. Someone is a Rabb of a child and takes this child in and works on him, trains him, educates him until that child reaches perfection. That's tarbiyah. Rabb means tarbiyah. So when God is our Rabb, what does that mean? When you take Him as your Lord, it means He takes you and does tarbiyat of you, develops you until you reach hadd tamam. You reach your maximum position. In this journey of life, all that's happening is that He is taking you and doing tarbiyat of you, shaking you, sometimes giving you blessings, sometimes giving you tests. All this, why? At the end, you'll see, oh, after 10 years, 20 years of this, I'm much better, I'm much stronger than before. So the first step is that sacrifice, difficulty, brings me position. Don't be afraid of these things. Don't be like, God, why didn't you answer my prayers? God, I wanted ease. Why do you always pray for ease? Pray for these things. But know in the back of your mind, the most important thing that God does is guidance. That first He creates, then He guides. And what He is doing to you is guiding you. He's taking you towards Him. But you don't see that. And because you just see what's in front of you. The second point that I want to say, and we'll end, is that through connection to Imam Hussein is the gateway to this love. Because Imam Hussein reached that perfect position. So therefore, when you love him, when you cry for him, and he comes into your heart, that is how you can reach Maqam al-Mahmud. That is how you can reach the praiseworthy station, as we say in Ziyarat al-Shura. Because he is your role model. He is a human like you. And you start to become like Imam Hussein without even thinking of it. Shaykh Mutahiri, the great teacher, says that there's 2 ways to lift steel beams. I want you to imagine these steel beams that they use for these huge skyscrapers in New York. There's 2 ways to lift them up. One, manually, 2 people, or if they can, or a few people try to lift it in a manual way. Or another way is with a crane, with a magnet. And you lift the whole bundle, for example. The whole bundle you lift. He says that when you try to attain spiritual perfection manually, just through wajibat, it's good, but it's very hard. It's like manually trying to lift things. But if you attain spiritual perfection through love of Ahlul Bayt, through the family of the Prophet, through the Prophet and his family, it's like that magnet. It becomes easy now. Because spontaneously you start to become like Imam Hussein. When you love him, you say, oh, Imam Hussein was such a great person. How did he live? What did he do? Did he tell the truth? I want to be like him. I start telling the truth. Was he courageous? You see, recently we had in one of the shrines of the Imams, I don't know if anybody here saw this video, that in Shah Chiragh, which is this Ahmad ibn Musa, which is one of the children of the Imams, there was this shrine in Iran. For the second time, another ISIS terrorist came with a automatic weapon and started shooting people, a group of people, one or two. And you see this khadim, you see this person that would work there, he runs after. It's interesting, that person has an automatic weapon. He runs after him, chases him. And he says in the interview, I looked around and he saw a lady that was shot and he saw her blood. He says, when I saw that blood, my blood started boiling. And he said, I had to get him. He didn't have any weapons. He wasn't armed. They're actually in the interview, already they were firing at that person. The defense was already firing at him. He says, I have to go get him. He runs after him and knocks him down. The video's there. Unfortunately, these things, they don't really show in the media here. This person that loved Ahlul Bayt, loved Imam Hussein, he learns that courage spontaneously. He didn't have to take a class on how to be courageous. Imam Hussein is a college, is a university that teaches courage. And he runs after this guy, knocks him down, and few other people come and get him. So you see, my friends, that when you talk about spiritual virtue or ethical virtue, that when you love Imam Hussein, this is the second part, you start to become like him. When you truly love him. And that's the whole point. If you don't become like Imam Hussein, you're missing. There's something wrong with your azadari. There's something wrong with the entire lessons of Karbala. If you come to Ashura and you don't sacrifice for your brother, and you're still selfish, no, there's something wrong with your azadari. No, there's something wrong with what's going on. Because the entire lesson is selflessness. The entire lesson is courage. And all the other lessons. So the best way for us to reach that high position that Imam Hussein has, just bring him in your heart. Truly love him. When you start to love him, then you will reach without even thinking, because he is your role model. You start to become like him. Inshallah, that will happen. As we end with this hadith that we have from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, وَبِنَا عُبِدَ اللَّهِ نحن الأدلاء على الله ولولانا ما عبد الله الله عرف بنا or عرف بنا Allah. Through us, Allah is worshipped. We are the path that we will show you how God is worshipped. You can say the Imams, the Prophets came to teach us how God is worshipped, to teach us prayer, teach us fasting, teach us what to do. Through us, God is worshipped. We are the proof on God. And if it wasn't for us, God wouldn't be worshipped. Through us, God is known. So when you look at Imam Hussein as Babullah, the gateway to God. When you look at Imam Mahdi and our Imam, the 12th Imam, as the gateway to God, it is that when they come into your heart, then this journey begins. Man arad Allah bada'a bikum min ziyajama. Whoever desires God starts with you, Ahlul Bayt. So then the first step is here. They teach you the correct beliefs, teach you the correct practices, they teach you the correct behavior, akhlaq. And then after they teach you this, you learn, they come into your heart, and they're a personification or embodiment of all this completion. And you start to mystically, in a way, they attract you, And you start to become Husseini day by day as you cry more for him, you do more ziyarah for him. You think of him, you think of the Imam of the age more, you give more for Imam Hussein, you do more Majlis at your house, Majlis here, you work more for Imam Hussein, you become a khadim and servant of Imam Hussein. Slowly you start to see you are acquiring all that perfection, some of that perfection that Imam Hussein has. We can dim the lights now and we'll be doing the musibah. You know, today, very unfortunate, we did the salat al-janazah of a child, someone that was young. I don't know anybody who was here that when we did this janazah prayer, and we wish Allah give patience to their father, their family members. When I was saying this, I saw that, you know, there's difference when a old, even though we are sad, when someone that is of age passes away, and when there's a funeral of a young person. A funeral of a young person is very sad. I want you to imagine a funeral or the death of a 3, 4, 5-year-old. How can you imagine someone being cruel to a 3, 4, 5-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein? You know, the month of Safar is the month of the daughter of Imam Hussein. The part of Ashura, of the caravan of Imam Hussein that was left in Sham to be a statement, to be an example of Imam Hussein's oppression in the capital of the caliphate. I don't know if you've ever seen any videos of the grave of Lady Ruqayya, the daughter of Imam Hussein. It's a tiny grave. They open it up, maybe this much, this small. This is how small she was. Why do you think we're so sad when we hear the musibat of the daughter of Imam Hussein? Because a daughter, when you come, a small child, when you push them, they can't defend against themselves. They can't do anything, they're defenseless. Because a young person, a small daughter, if they are hit, they're very fragile. Their body is very fragile. They can easily break their bones. Because when they came to hit, they say, when they came to hit the daughter of Imam Hussein, they would slap her. Instead of slapping her, hitting one cheek, it would hit both cheeks because her face is small and their hands are big. Because a child is so sensitive, is so pure. And imagine the daughter of Imam Hussein during such nights asking, where is my father? It has been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I haven't seen my father. Day and night she's crying for her father, wondering where is he? She's traveling with Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab is like the nurse, is taking care of the children of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But there's nobody you can say in a way to take Lady Ruqayya, to put her on the lap and to caress her and to comb her hair and to tell her that condolences to you, O granddaughter of Rasulullah, daughter of the grandson of Rasulullah. In Sham, in the prisons of Sham or in Sham, the caravan of Imam Hussein enters. Ziyarat al-Nahiya, if you ever read it, talks about some of the description of the caravan of Imam Hussein. It says, وَرَفِعَ عَلَى الْقَنَاةِ رَاسُ, and your head, Hussein ibn Ali, your blessed head, was on spears. The caravan, I want you to imagine in Syria, now it's time for the caravan to enter Sham, and you have the head of the shuhada, the head that Lady Ruqayya, or some say Fatima as-Saghir, is her other name, would have to look at, would have to watch this entire 3 days. وَالصُّبِيَ أَهْلُكَ كَالْعَبِيدِ, and your family members, Imam Hussein, were taken captives like slaves. As if they want to take them, they're prisoners of war now and they want to sell them. وَالصُّفِدُ فِي الْحَدِيدِ, your family was bound atop iron chains on camels. Imagine the chains that the children of Imam Hussein, the daughter of Imam Hussein had. تَلْفَهُ وُجُوهَهُمْ harrul hajirat, with midday heat scorching their faces, no shade. You went to the procession yesterday, it was a little warm and everyone was looking for shade. But what about the heat that happened in Iraq, and the sunlight that is scorching on top of a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, that is always under the sun? يُسَاقُونَ فِي الْبَرَارِ وَالْفَلَوَاتِ. They were driven across deserts and wastelands. It was not a one-day trip. It took weeks for them to finally, from Karbala, reach Syria. أَيْدِيهِمْ مَغْلُولَةٌ إِلَى الْأَقْنَاقِ. Their necks, their hands were chained atop their necks like this. Taken with chains the entire way like this. This is from Ziyarat Nahiyah. يُطَافُ بِهِمْ فِي الْأَسْوَاقِ. They were paraded around the markets. While the family of Yazid, the family of Ubaidullah, they were protected in castles. Nobody could see them. But the family of Imam Hussein was paraded around the markets. Where is Hadrat Abbas? Where is the Bani Hashim? That whenever this family wanted to ride atop of an animal, they would surround them and do halaqiyya Bani Hashim to make sure that nobody would see them go on top of these animals. Nobody is there right now while they are paraded around these markets. Their Lady Ruqayya asks for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. She cannot bear it anymore and is still wondering where her father is. So now they come and give the blessed head of Imam Hussein to the daughter of Imam Hussein, to a 3-year-old. Imagine the conversation that she has with this head. Because those of you that have daughters know when you haven't seen them for a while, they come and talk to you and they tell you what has happened. What is she telling Imam Hussein now? Maybe she's saying, Father, I haven't eaten anything yet. They haven't even given me bread yet, Father, these last few weeks. Father, I just wanted some water. They didn't give me water. But if they gave me water, I probably wouldn't drink it because you never had water, Father. Father, where did you go? Or some of the lines it has, Father, Ya Abata, man alladhi aytamani ala sighara sinni. I'm at a young age. Who made me an orphan at such a young age, Father? And she keeps asking, Father, who has made me aged? Who she has become like a lady that has been very old now at the age of 3. How hard it is being an orphan, imagine she's saying. How hard it is that I don't see you, my Father. But Father, Imam Hussein, tell your mother one thing. Tell Fatima to Zahra one thing. I have tasted some of the pains and tribulations like your mother Fatima Zahra. Your mother Fatima Zahra in the streets of Medina was hid by such cowards. I was also beaten by such cowards, but in a different place. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ مَاتَمَ الْحُسَيْنِ. التماس دعاء everyone.
Hussain, Ya Hussain, Mawla Hussain, Ya Hussain, Hussain, Ya Hussain, Mawla Hussain, Ya Hussain, Hussain, Ya Hussain, Mawla Hussain, Ya Hussain. Aywa Garib Hussaina, Aywa Shaheed Hussaina, Aywa Mazloom Hussaina, Aywa Mazloom Hussaina. Hussain, Ya Hussain, Mawla Hussain, Ya Hussain. Karo matam, karo Shah Karbo Bala ka. कल हो ना हो क्या पता जिंदगी का کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا اے عزادارو زہرا کے پیارو تم کو شہید کربلا نے پکارا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ سلام زہرا کے ماہ پارو سلام حیدر کے چاند تارو سلام زہرا کے ماہ پارو سلام حیدر کے چاند تارو نیزہ سوارو اے جان سارو نیزہ سوارو اے جان سارو کربلا والو لو سلام ہمارا کرو ماتم کرو ساری فوج خدا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا ہم ہو نہ ہو یہ غم تو رہے گا کل کوئی ہم سا ماتم کرے گا ہم ہو نہ ہو یہ غم تو رہے گا کل کوئی ہم سا ماتم کرے گا فرش ازا تو بستر رہے گا فرش ازا تو بستر رہے گا ایک دن یہ سارا سنگ سار کہے گا کرو ماتم کرو مل کے شاہ خدا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی بدلے جو موسم بدلے زمانہ غرے غموں سے خود کو بچانا بدلے جو موسم بدلے زمانہ غرے غموں سے خود کو بچانا فرش ازا سے دور نہ جانا فرش ازا سے دور نہ جانا ٹوٹی دلوں کا ہے حسین سہارا کرو ماتم کرو دل مشکل کشا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا لایا محرم حسین کا غم ہے کالے کپڑے ہے کالے پرچم لایا محرم حسین کا غم ہے کالے کپڑے ہے کالے پرچم نوح سبیلے تازیے ماتم نوح سبیلے تازیے ماتم شیخ ازا کا پر نور نظارہ کرو ماتم کرو راضی دل سے ادا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا بولیں گے کیسے روزے عاشورا وہ پارا پارا گلشن زہرا بولیں گے کیسے روزے عاشورا وہ پارا پارا گلشن زہرا شاہ زمن کا تیروں پہ لاشا شاہ زمن کا تیروں پہ لاشا لاکھوں نے مل کے مظلوم کو مارا کرو ماتم کرو گل خیر النساء کا کل ہو نہ ہو کیا پتہ زندگی کا کرو ماتم کرو شاہ کربو بلا کل ہو نہ ظہور ہوگا ضرور ہوگا شیخ حرم میں آئیں گے مولا ظہور ہوگا ضرور ہوگا شیخ حرم میں آئیں گے مولا हुजूम होगा, अहले अज़ा का हुजूम होगा, अहले अज़ा का। उस दिन कहेगा हमसे मौला हमारा करो मातम, करो हर कतीले जफा का। कलो न हो क्या पता जिंदगी का, करो मातम करो शाह करबो बला का। कलो न हो क्या आयवा गरीब हुसैना, आयवा शहीद हुसैना, आयवा मजलूम, आयवा मजलूम हुसैना। हुसैन या हुसैन मौला हुसैन या हुसैन, हुसैन हुसैन।
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى وأم المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر القادم، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري، السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن، يا حجة بن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا خابة الإمام، يا إمام وإمام الإنس والجان، عجل على ظهورك، عجل على ظهورك، عجل على ظهورك يا ابن الحسن، يا ابن الحسن، عجل على ظهورك، عجل على ظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.